A question may arise, and someone may ask me, why did I become spiritual? If I'm being honest, at first it was curiosity. I wanted to know what was on the other side because I had a life, was married, had children. I'd lived the normal life. I've partied, I've drunk alcohol, I've gone to clubs, I've gone out, drank the most expensive alcohol, ate the most expensive food, traveled to the beaches, Durban, Cape Town. Of course, I haven't really been outside of South Africa yet. However, I did believe that I had lived a life and there was a possibility of a new chapter, a new life on the other side. And that is one of the things that made me start this journey. I only found out when I was 32 years old that I was spiritual. And then that curiosity is what got me started. And throughout my journey, there's a lot that happened. And at some point, I think after a year after I started my journey, I was asked to come back home to my maternal grandmother's side where I grew up. I lived in Pretoria at the time. It was about 200 kilometers away from my home where I grew up. I grew up in the villages. I was born and bred here. And I lived a simple life, went to school. We used to walk to school. There was nothing out of the ordinary. It was life, it was normal. Everybody did it. We walked to school, would walk about say 15 k's to school, and we had groups, we picked each other up, we waited for each other, we checked on each other. We were a team. um and then there's this beautiful thing that comes up with a lot of questions, with a lot of stigma around it, with a lot of opinions about it. Some say it's good, some say it's bad. And I was like, why not? Let's go ahead. And then when I was home, while I'm going through my journey and I'm doing my shadow work and I'm going back to my upbringing, my childhood traumas, my relationship with my mom, my dad, my grandmothers, my family as a whole, I actually remembered so much that I had somehow forgotten, or somehow it wasn't relevant at the time when I was married or I had kids. I was living a different kind of life in a different city. Certain things kind of, I'd say, took the back seat. And with coming home, I had enough time to actually deal with my emotions, deal with my thoughts, and deal with a whole lot of things. And I actually remembered that spirituality took my mother away from me. At the time, there was no word for it. At the time, there was no explanation for it. At the time, it was something that was happening, but I didn't know what it was. So, my mother was a spiritual person through and through. She struggled with spirituality, struggled through school. She struggled through relationships, money, finances, getting a job. Literally, her life was not going so well. It took about 8 years to complete a degree, a 3-year degree. And she came back home. She couldn't get a job. She never worked a day in her life. She already had me, and then she had another child, but still no relationship at the end of the day. They were all flaky. They came and they left. And she was going through a serious depression. So since in my family we grew up, there was no spiritual people. Spirituality was a no-go area. It was a big elephant in the room, and my family was strong under a church. Grandmother, my mom's mom, was the one who was strong in the church. My grandfather, on the other hand, was not so. He was a drinker, a smoker, didn't care really much about church and all that stuff. But my grandmother on my maternal side was a strong believer in church. And then my mother became a member of ZCC Church too, but they just couldn't help her because she struggled so much with aligning her spiritual gifts to the church. and that caused even more confusion. She struggled with anxiety, depression, and my mother did the most. I'm laughing now, but I was a child. I didn't know what was happening. But when I sit down and I remember every single thing, the signs were there. And since I'm an alignment coach myself, and that's what I do for a living, these are some of the things I pick up from the people I help. And that's exactly what my mother went through, where she would see things, she would hear things, she would perceive, she would dream. She she was sharp. She would give predictions about things and they would happen. And she would see things and call me to come see some of the things. So some of the things I've seen as a child are very traumatic. I will talk more in the next episode about what I've seen and what I've experienced and how that has actually impacted my decision in terms of becoming spiritual, because I was exposed to it at some point in my life. So I wanted to know more. I wanted to find out more, to learn more of what is on the other side. So one of the reasons why I keep going and I keep continuing what I'm doing is the fact that I lost my mother at 13 years old to spirituality because she didn't know what to do. She had a gift that was too big for church. She had this thing that she couldn't explain. And I'll tell you a little bit more about it on the next episode. Stay tuned, because that's why I'm still spiritual. That's why I keep going, even when it's hard, because I'm trying to confront spirituality. I'm trying to find out, I'm looking spirituality in the eye every day, and I'm asking it questions. I'm learning more. I'm understanding more. I'm understanding how this beautiful yet so not so beautiful thing can do what it did to me, can leave me without a mother, can leave me as an orphan because my dad and my mother were both spiritual. So let's talk more about it on the next episode. It's a little bit heavy, so it is gonna be a little bit of a long one. So love and light. I'll see you in the next one.